Will you want some of your lights to be mobile? In other words, ceiling lights, wall sconces are not going to be mobile. What you're going to want to do is look at, can I move my table lamp? Are you going to want to move it? Plan that out ahead of time, because where you move that table lamp, you're going to have a place to plug it. How long do you want your lighting to last? We all know that you can screw in a light bulb and have it blow out 5 minutes later. If you take all the time and trouble to wire lighting, make sure that you can change the lights or use LED lighting. And I sell LED. I used to sell incandescent. I'm thoroughly convinced that it is not going to be long and you're not going to be able to replace your incandescent lights. When Dick and I visited with Circuit, when we went to Rochester to visit with Gene and Vern, they considered LED lighting a fad. And that's, when did Rochester have their house party? That's about how long ago? Try finding a regular incandescent light anymore in most of the stores. A lot of the states have outlawed them, and the miniature lights are going to go too. LED lighting is more efficient, lasts considerably longer. Price is about the same. You're talking 10,000 to 50,000 hours for an LED bulb in your minis. It runs cooler, so you're not going to dry out the wallpaper and cloth in your dollhouse miniatures. And remember that most likely you're not the final owner of what you have in the way of miniatures. Somebody else is going to inherit it down the road. It is best to have what the most up-to-date versions that you can, because if it comes to them having to replace it, make it so that they can. When you design the lighting system in your dollhouse, design it in such a way that you can replace a bulb or replace a light without having to disassemble your house, because 9 chances out of 10, you won't. Will you be moving your dollhouse on occasion? That will tell you what kind of power you're going to be using. You can mix LED and incandescent, and a lot of people do, and I've retrofitted a lot of houses that have included both. The one thing that you got to remember is that most of your dollhouses are 12-volt systems. I ran into one that was 16-volt the other day. That's because the trained people use 16 volts, and most of their lights are 16-volt. I have used a combination of the two in a house. When one burns out, you got a problem. So it's just best pick a voltage that you can live with, and that whoever inherits a dollhouse is also going to live with. Once all of your questions above are answered, the wiring will be a whole lot easier and go much smoother and less problems down the road. The tools, that's a bad picture. Here's a better one. Let me get my pointer. Wire strippers. I use these more than I do anything else on this page. Pair of scissors, Make it easy on yourself. Get a good pair of small, very sharp scissors. Pliers, you'll use them often. That screwdriver is reversible. I can take that metal part out and go from a Phillips to a slot. So I only have to have one screwdriver and I can use it for both Phillips and slot screws. An X-Acto knife, you'll use that quite often. Ruler, I throw that in because quite often I don't have a ruler when I need it, but you don't use it very much in your electrical. An emery board, I will show you later what you're going to use the emery board on in your LED lights. Pencil, that goes with everything. A red and black Sharpie or marker. These happen to be something other than a Sharpie, but it's a permanent marker. Make sure that whatever you get is a permanent red and black. That's an optional item. The helping hands and magnifying glass, that's very handy to have when you will want to solder a couple of things together and you'll find that you only have 2 hands. You need 3 quite often. Masking tape, painter's tape is another one that you will need. A lighter. I use a barbecue lighter until this last lesson. Sherry put me on to it's like a Bic, and I forgot my camera's upside down. A Bic lighter with, for lack of a better word, a pointer. It concentrates. Let's see if it'll show up with that camera. Just like a regular Bic, it's kind of hard. But you got a pretty good flame. And it's refillable. I will be carrying those in my regular stock. Right now I'm down to 4. Here's something that you will be glad you had when you get them. And that would be fast cap if you need double face tape. Fast cap puts out one of the best. Fact is, it is the best. And I think that may be, it beats 3M. But I did find one that was awfully good and very close to it.
Is that the Gorilla?
Yeah. Yes, it is Gorilla 2-sided tape. It's thicker than this one is. This one's paper thin. This one has a thickness to it. You can see that the covering is clear. I think we've all seen this one at Hobby Lobby and Joann's. It's a foam tape and it does deteriorate over time. So far, I have not seen the Gorilla Clear tape or this one deteriorate over time. The one thing that I will tell you about this fast cap tape is that it gets stronger as it ages. It holds better as it ages. Lights. These are 12 volt. All ribbon lights are 12 volt. They have resistors built in to reduce the power to 3 volts because each one of these are 3 volt lights. LEDs are created 3 volts, and to take anything more than 3 volts, they have to have a resistor. This is a 9 volt light, and notice that it's pregnant. The easiest way to remember that it's a 9 volter is that it takes 9 volts, the same as it takes 9 months to get rid of a pregnancy. 3 volts. These are the Megalites. There is a positive side, which is right here, and a negative side. If you wire these wrong, I can put that red wire over here and that black wire over here. As long as I feed positive electricity or current through the light by way of the positive lead, it will go on. It doesn't care what color the wire is. We be careful when we put the wires on so that we can later on remember where the positive side is and where the negative side is. You can mix the wires, and I shouldn't say that to you if you're a beginner because that will cause nothing but confusion. Get in the habit of always, always, always putting the red wire on the positive side and the black wire, green wire, blue wire, whatever the other color is, on the negative side. This is pretty good size light bulb. It is a 5 millimeter, 3 volt. That is a 1.8 3 volts. So the size of the light doesn't determine the volts that it takes to drive that and turn it on. These are 3 volts, both of those. Look at the size, the different sizes in these lights, and yet they're both the same voltage. This is a single chip or a diode off of one of these runs of tape. Like I said, this is by itself, this is 3 volts, and there it is. One side of that diode is positive. The other side is negative, never changes. Always one side is positive and one side is negative. And if you look at the side, let me turn this so that you can see it. The side of each one of those diodes, there's three pieces of silver. Those are the solder points when they were making the tape. So those solder points are what I connect to when I'm making a single chip light. So these are the lights that are available. It will not surprise me at all if they don't come up with an LED screw-in bulb. They've got a couple of hurdles to go over. These are the chips. Pico chip is the tiniest, and I mean it is tiny.
Yep.
It is small enough to fit inside of a plastic, one of those plastic lanterns, which I'm going to demonstrate here a little bit from now. And also notice that the tape In the tape, sometimes there's a plus and a minus showing you which side of those lights are plus and which side is minus. And sometimes they don't put it there. The camera I'm using, I cannot refocus. So I have to get it where as close to, now it's starting to get blurry that far in. These particular runs of tape did not have the plus and minus. That one does. Here's another piece of information that you'll need when you start ordering this type of tape, okay? Notice the different sizes. Notice also the difference in color. This is a deep yellow. That's warm white. This is a lighter yellow, and that will be true white. Waterproof has a plastic coating to it, but it also comes in different sizes. This is the 5050, 5035, and I don't remember off the top of my head what sizes these two are, but they do come in a lot of different sizes, and you have to know what you want. In color-wise, you have to know how many lights. There's 3 lights per section between cut marks. 1, 2, and 3, and there's the cut marks. There's the cut marks on that one, and look how tiny those guys are. Another kind of light, if it helped to put it right side up. Are string lights. Multicolor, warm white, true white. True white came out about 2 years ago. I started buying it about a year ago. What I'm finding is that the difference is also has to do with the manufacturer. Oh my goodness. Just a little bit of different kind of lighting makes a difference in what you're seeing.
Yeah.
String lights or fairy lights. I carry both the ones with the multicolor and the true white. By the way, that one's waterproof, so you can put it in a pond. The nice thing about these lights is that if I can find the end, here's the end. Grab a pair of scissors. I can cut one off and the rest are staying on. And I can take that one, trim it on the end, bare the wires on that end, and connect it to power, 3 volts of power. By the way, if any of you have any questions, would you please open your chat panel and go ahead and ask the questions. We're going to cover all these questions at the end. upside down. I've got 3 volts and 3 volts. Everybody understand that one? Let me put this single light away. The 3 volts in the 2, each battery is 1.5 volts for a total of 3 volts. And the coin cell inside of here is 3 volts. Let's turn on the coin cell and the flickering fireplace. They're both feeding to the copper strips. You can't see because it is the coin cell. This little chip or diode is not even flickering because the battery is too low. Now when I turn that off, it's still not going on. When you have a flickering light and a solid light, I guess it would help if I had put brand new batteries in those guys. That should go on because it's now using bigger power source. Did that make any difference in the flicker of the orange? Yes, it did. Basically, according to what I have been told by Evans, when you have a flickering light, there is the flicker in here will show up on all of your lights that are in the same system. So what you want to do is keep your flickering lights, like fireplaces, on their own circuit. In other words, if you got a flickering light, give it its own power source. Put all of your solids on their own power source. I've used these so many times, the power is probably not so good. This 12-volt light power system feeding to copper tape, positive, negative. Negative wire, positive wire going to an incandescent light. On that same copper strip, I have soldered an LED strip of lights, positive, negative. This proves on the same system, same power source, I can run LED and incandescent. Probably can't see. There, that's a little easier to see. I'm running 12 volts. I know that this is a 12-volt system. I mean, an incandescent light. I also know that not all anymore. I just discovered 5-volt. Most of the strip lights are 12-volt. When you buy your strip lights, now you're going to have to designate whether you want 12-volt or 5-volt. This week, I'm going to try to test a 6-volt with it and see what happens, because I have lots of 6-volt power systems. When it comes to power, You got lots of choices. Batteries, transformers. Oh, by the way, when it comes to batteries, PowerSonic makes a, let me turn this overhead light off and see if that helps. Yes, but I can't see, but that's okay. 9 volt, 3 volt, 12 volt, and most of you have a transformer. When you're looking at your transformers, this is a 12 volt. Look at the output, 12 VAC. That is 12 volts alternating current. Alternating current cannot use alternating current with your LED. Brief history. LED likes all of the current to go through it, not alternating on and off and on and off. I have the PowerSonic 12 volt battery has a negative and a positive terminal. I'll demonstrate later on how you can use this to power your dollhouse. It has protective terminal protectors. I only have one because the other one flew across the room and I haven't located it yet. I got this at the battery store. The model number is PS1212. It says it is 12 volts, 1.4 amps, which is going to be plenty for your dollhouse. And Sherry, you may want to have one of these handy instead of plugging into or looking for, since you do repairs on them. This is a very handy, and it's small. It fits in your hand. It's heavy. Be prepared to have, this is my second one in, I guess it's been 2 years. But this has been a great one. Again, mark your batteries. Let's face it, sometimes that writing is not the easiest to read.
You mean mark your transformer?
Mark your transformers, 12 volt, AC or DC, alternating current or direct current. Direct current. Since I came from Nevada, I picked Hoover Dam. That's where the electricity gets started. It's 100,000 volts when it's leaving the oh shoot, I forgot what it's called, but anyway, that's where all the electricity for Las Vegas and Los Angeles comes from, just to name a few small places. And then it goes from there to a substation. Actually, it goes one more place, but that's okay. Now it's down to 50,000. Then it goes from a substation to a telephone pole, or what we call telephone pole, but really it's a service pole, power pole, now down to 10,000. From there, if you'll notice on most of your power poles have these little buckets on them. Those are transformers. A bigger version of that little one that I had just a minute ago. That gets sent to your service panel in your house. Remember that thing that we used to have to screw in? I lost that word too. And I'll bet there's 5 or 6 of you that remember what that was called. The service panel takes all of that electricity and sends it out to an outlet. At your service panel, it may have 5,000 volts hitting it. Every outlet should have 110 to 140 volts. So you've gone from the power source to an outlet with lots of different steps in between. There is nothing that says these are exact numbers according to what happens, because it depends on the distance that the electricity has to travel. There's an awful lot of conditions that determine what leaves your service panel, but when it gets to your outlet, it is 110 to 140 volts. Let me tell you something else. That's not consistent. Your 110 to 140 can vary. Within a minute, it can vary a lot. That's why on your televisions, on your computers, and on your sensitive electronic equipment, you should have a protective device so that it leaves the power coming through your outlet at a consistent amount of power.
The word was fuses.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been so long since I had to put one in. Now, you're going to be using batteries on occasion. A 9-volt battery is the only battery we know yet that has both its positive and its negative terminals in same proximity. Cover the terminals with tape. When they're new, when they're old, it does not make any difference. When you think that it doesn't have any life in it, it does. When it doesn't drive anything because it rolled over and played dead, it still has some power. Make sure you cover those terminals. Here's why. I'm going to uncover them. Let's say this little guy died. It's down to almost nothing. You plug it into something and it barely gives off a little bit of light. I've got a steel wool. Just crossing these terminals, contacting one to the other, I get a fire. If you want to start a fire out on a camping trip, take a 9-volt battery and a piece of steel wool. Let me make sure that I got that fire out. When you take the tape off the end of the battery to use it, oops, take the tape and wrap it around the edge. That way it's handy and you won't forget to cover your terminals. Now the difference between an incandescent light and an LED light. And the incandescent light takes alternating current. The current goes up one wire, heats up the rod, and then heats up this carbon filament in between. It shuts off. It comes up the other wire, up the rod, heats up that carbon filament from the other side and shuts off. And then it comes back up the other side, does its job, stops. Then it comes up the other side, does its job, and stops. It does that 60 times every second. That's why you never see that unless you can blink fast enough. You're not going to see that switch from side to side. The difference is over here on a diode, it has a whole bunch of electrons between layers of silicon chips. When electricity is applied to the positive side, it goes through and excites all these little electrons that move between the layers of chips in little holes in the chips. And when they move, they turn on and they become light. They discharge through the negative part and back down to the power source. So your power is going directly through your LED and back down to your power source to discharge. So DC is directly, AC is alternating current. Again, I have direct current. All batteries are direct current. That's one of the reasons why most miniaturists think that LED has to be operated with a battery. No, it does not. It can be operated with a transformer or regulated power supply is what they're called, that delivers only direct current. LED, incandescent, can be operated out of the same system. I know it's repetitive to say that, but if I do, you'll remember it. Round wire can be soldered to tape wire. Very simple. Bare wire to bare wire. I cut the mylar off so that I can solder the bare wire to the bare copper. In actuality, there is no difference between this wire and that wire, except that that one's flat and that one's round. I have an incandescent light plugged into a circuit plug. "12-volt 823 battery, 12-volt light." You'll be dealing with round wire and flat wire. In order for you to make any kind of a connection you must have a bare wire. All of these wires have a coating all the way to the end. That has a coating too. It has Mylar tape on top. It is no different than, there's no way for me to get to my Scotch tape. But if I were to put Scotch tape on that, that would be the same as this. Inside of every one of these wires is bare wire. And it's that bare end that carries the electricity. Nothing at all is carried through the outside. That outside is to protect you and also keep those separate. Since in alternating currents, you've got current flowing on the black side and then on the red side, then on the black side, then on the red side, okay? And if those two meet, you're going to get a short. Same holds true for all of these wires. And that little bitty wire at the top is not the finest. There is one that's even smaller than that. This one you'll strip. It's stranded. It's double wire. It's together, but kept separate. One with black coating and the other one with red coating. There are several pieces of wire in each one of these. 28 gauge wire has a solid wire inside. Same holds true with the 32. This is the wire that we've been using for years with the lights from Circuit. Kynar wire has another name. It's called hookup wire. You melt the ends, the coating off the ends. Here it is from a spool called hookup wire. I got this from, I buy Kynar wire or hookup wire from Evans Designs. Magnet wire, I have no idea why they call it magnet wire. Basically, because it's not magnetic as far as I can tell. Basically, the coating is on there and it must be scraped off. So the easiest way to do that is use a X-Acto knife or blade at a 45-degree angle, scraping, or you can use an emery board to take it off. Both magnetic, the tiny magnetic wire and the little bit bigger ones. These are on this is a pico light. This is a nano light.
Mm.
Flat wire. The easiest way to get your coating off, obviously, is as I demonstrated last Thursday. You're going to make a slit on each side of the two runs, peel the Mylar back and cut it off. The sticky side is the part that actually touches the board. There is no sticky on the back side of the Mylar that touches the tape. I watched him make this, and I can't tell you how they made it so that only that part, and that part is sticky. This is copper tape, bare copper tape. I purchased from Canada from a stained glass distributor because they use this in stained glass for the edges. Copper corrodes with time. So if you use copper tape in your installations, remember to coat it with Scotch tape. That's what Mylar tape is. Coat it, cover it when you get through putting it in. Because if you don't, you're going to put wallpaper over that. And what do you use in the back of the wallpaper to get it to stick?
Water.
A water-based paste that is going to corrode that very quickly. Protect that tape. There's a reason that they put that tape on, that Mylar on there. When you solder two joints together, you have a choice between tape and a shrink tube. Look at the difference. When you want to solder a joint, and I'll demonstrate one because I got one ready to go. I'm going to have to turn the light on. I'm working in a new environment. Let's switch cameras. Okay, computer, I said switch cameras. Let's try that one. There we go. I had to solder a strip light, to a connector. It's a white, I have two white wires. I'm going to solder the red and the black to the two white wires. First thing I'm going to do is tape down one. Then I'm going to get a shrink tube that's big enough to go over. Now, one of the things that I learned along the way was get that shrink tube as far away from where it's going to be hot as possible. Then I'm going to cover it with tape.
Move down a little bit. We can't see the top of your tile.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's secure this one. Secure the other one.
You don't have to twist them together?
No. Fact is, if you twist them, you're making it bulkier. I'm going to clean the tip of my soldering iron so it's nice and shiny. Dip it in tip tinner. Grab my solder. Preheat both surfaces.
Oh, blurry.
I'm working with, let's see.
There you go.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I know from experience that that shrink tube is not going to want to squeeze up over. Let me grab the pliers, the electrical pliers.
Blurry. Aha.
Okay, now let's squeeze the shrink tube over the joint. Now, why do we put shrink tube on? Since we don't want, since I don't want these two joints to touch each other. It should automatically focus, but
it's not.
It's not doing that. So the next thing I'm going to do is,
there it is.
Shrink the tube around the wires. That is one hot flame. Now, guess what I got on the other end?
A plug.
Circuit junction splice. No, that's not a junction splice, but it gets connected to a junction splice. Let me move this board, switch cameras again. Camera. All right. Oops. Right side up.
Scrunch it down. Thank you.
If you'll notice that on attached to the 12-volt light or battery system, I have a junction splice. This is why you've got a testing board. I just got through making a light, ribbon lighting with wiring soldered to it. I got 12 volts and I got an old junction splice. Okay, or I forgot what they call that. Now that I've made this into a direct current, I have red wire going to white and black wire going to white. So I have to follow that. And the side that's red should be red on that side. But I marked the wrong side. I've got black or negative on this side. Since black covers red, And when I plug it in, I'm going to match my black or my negative to my black, which is also negative. And we have light. So you can use some of your old circuit junction splices, lead-in wire, that's what it's called. Shoot. That's what happens when you get old. So that's what your test board's for. You can use your junction splice on your circuit tape and test your, attach a lead-in wire to your lighting system and use that for your power source. Now, if I plug that in, I have light. If I turn it around, since this is direct power, I'm working at an angle, very uncomfortable angle. Now I turned it around and the light won't go on. So turn it around again and I have light. So if the first thing you check, when you check your direct current system, do you have positive to positive? I have the positive going up the positive flat wire to the positive side of the junction splice. I have the negative wire to the negative side of the copper tape. And the negative, I have marked these so that in the future, I know which side of that junction splice is negative and which side is positive. So I've got myself a way to light under my kitchen cabinets in my real kitchen or in my dollhouse. I could put that junction splice over here on the 9-volt if I'd had it as close together as these two are. And I could have also tested this in the 9-volt system, because that run of tape will run on 9 volts. It'll wear the 9 volts out fairly soon, but those little tiny lights are 0.20 milliamps. Let's turn this on and give it a try. That shows you that light will go on with 9 volts. I can't span it any too easily. The prongs on the lead-in wire are closer together than the holes. But this lets you know that you can test your circuit lead-in wires and all your plugs. Wire, light. If you have test board. Somebody told me that they got one of these battery testers at the dollar store. That's great. If it works, great.
It's different.
Oh, is it? at the front end that it's got a positive and negative. And you can see that it tests it. All I gotta do is hold it in the right place. Before I forget, this is a wire stripper I recommend because it has a locking mechanism. Clamps down and locks.
This is mine, Lucy.
I gotta see this. Let me pin you.
Okay, guys, this is what mine looks like. And it has a wire in the back. It comes out. Positive there.
Get it up to the camera.
Sorry. On the fingers. It's positive
Oh,
there.
it's a battery tester?
Yeah.
Oh. See? Does it tells you whether it's full or just half? Or half spent? That's great.
It doesn't have a name on it.
Is that the one that came from the dollar store?
Yeah. It's not as fancy as the one Lucy was showing. It doesn't tell you how full it is, except it's got 3 lights.
And it's also cheaper.
And it's cheaper, and it fits in my little toolbox when I'm on the road.
That's great.
It does 9-volt too.
What does it do with 12?
Well, with the 9-volt, it has a, you put the 9-volt on the 2.
Great. How do you, you can test also the coin cell batteries. That's great.
Yeah.
Super. Well, ladies, we just added a new tester to our arsenal of tools. And it's probably considerably lighter too.
Yeah.
To carry.
I've had it a long time. I don't know if they still sell them, but.
We'll find out. Sherry put me on to these little Bic lighters. They look like Bic, but they're not a Bic. But they have a great fire. You got to be pretty good and strong.
Now yours sounds like a blowtorch. Mine just does a flicker flame. Yeah.
Yeah, this comes out like a blowtorch, but it's sure nice.
I got mine at Dollar Tree too.
Here's a fairly new light I'm having fun with. It's long. It's neon, like it also goes on and off on its own. It also has a fast flicker. So if you're doing a motel, a sign, or whatever turns you on that has lights that look pretty cool. If you email me, I'll tell you what it is and where I got it. When you're soldering, make sure you have a fan. I got this particular fan because there. because I can angle it based on the angle that I'm soldering. When I turn it on, it draws. Let me turn this blue thing back. When I turn it on, it draws the smoke through the fan and away from me. Now, highly recommend lead-free solder. Lead-free solder doesn't work as easily as leaded solder. It doesn't flow as easily, doesn't melt the same, but it's a heck of a lot safer. So take your time and get lead-free solder. 23 years ago, when I started doing this, I was introduced to Ruth Major. I wanted to make it so that when I put a drawer into a display case, the light went on. I got a 3-volt light system connected to solder to copper tape. And all I have to do to make that go out is take it apart. Because inside I have the copper tape going over a piece of magnet. And that's nothing more than a credit card magnet. And that meets up with a light that is soldered to the copper tape that goes over the top of a matching magnet. And when the two touch, the light goes on. Now, to make that, I figured with a magnet, I should be able to do other things. I got a quarter scale hurricane lantern, a little quarter scale light lamp, and a 1-inch scale lamp. It's got a connection problem. You can see all the lights. This is the fun part. Those are the same magnets that we use in our magnetic earrings. So magnets can be a plug. The current's going through the magnets. Now on the back, I have the magnets countersunk into the wall. Now, when it comes to connections, like a regular plug, I have the female portion here. Not the world's greatest eyesight, but for 83, I don't have a problem. Yes, ladies, finding the little holes that those little tiny wires go into. At an angle. Try going from the front.
There you go.
Yep. I designed these little hurricane lantern. So 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 inch, you can connect with the right connectors. I got these magnet connectors in the jewelry department at Joann's. Magnetic earrings. If you can countersink the back into the wall and connect your power, positive and negative, one on one side, one on the other. Make a pond. If that's filled with the acrylic water and little fish, it would look great. I'll be doing it for the MCC landscaping. Fact is, I'll be teaching how to do a pond. I have a 144 house. Eliminated, and for the life of me, I cannot find it, but that's because I moved. Now, those of you who live in the area of oak trees can take an acorn, draw a little, clean it first. Draw little holes, drill little holes in it and a hole at the bottom. Insert, oh, you got to drill a little hole at the top for the end of the wire. Insert a light. And you have an acorn lantern. You can make your own table lamps. I take paper and put trim on it. Make my own lampshade. I use beads for the base, findings for the bottom. I run a chip through from the bottom to the top, and that's not going to stay in place. It is fun to make these lamps, especially if you go through Joann's or Hobby Lobby or Michael's and go to the bead department, and your imagination can go nuts just finding all kinds of things that you can make a lamp out of. Even those little brown plastic furniture. I made a lampshade out of a bead, a finding, and some resin. Put it on top of the lamp. I put a pico light inside of the bottom of the lamp.
So the base glows.
Let's see if I can get that right. There you go. So the brown plastic furniture table lamps that are, I got a bazillion of them. All you got to do is drill a hole in the very bottom. I have No, because I'm making a bunch of these for our club. When you drill the bottom, you got to drill a hole in the bottom, and it's got to come up the neck, very narrow area. And when it gets up to here, this part's hollow. So your drill will jump and end at the very top.
Cool.
There's the hole.
Blurry.
The camera's trying to focus. Let me put this away. One of the things, I'm glad that happened. One of the things that you have to be aware of is on Pico lights, because they're so small, grab the light securely between thumb and forefinger, straighten your wire out, insert the lamp in the hole. Be aware that that is going to come out if any chance it has to come out, like it just did for me. So secure it so that that light doesn't come out of the bottom. I'm working on a Delft blue lantern in 1-inch scale. Let's see if I can find the battery. And I'm pretty sure I used a 3-volter in there. I did. When you really get bored and you really get sick and tired of having to stay home and not see anybody, start making lamps. You'll find it a lot of fun. The old 3-volt battery holders, and I dislike these intently. For lack of a better word, I call it a C shape. When you put it, the battery in, getting it in is not a problem. Getting it out, if your hands are slippery, you have to hang on to both and pull. I don't know. Oh, I put a chip light in this one. And it doesn't work. Now, it does not work. It can be the chip light. It can be my switch. And I just noticed something. I could have, no, it's not the battery.
There you go.
It's in the plus side up.
It flashed.
Oh, all right. Troubleshooting. Sherry said it flashed, which means that battery's good, light is good, connection's bad. There's something wrong in the connection. And it can be in here. It could be both wires, which get to be bare at the end of that. Both wires were touching something metal and shorting it out. So when you get something like that happen, you start at the very beginning. Is this connection secure? Did I make a good connection here? Then you look at that connection and that connection. And at the end, look for the possibility of having on these chip lights, you have a certain amount of bare wire toward the end where the chip is. It's not going to focus. Let me give the other camera a try and let's see, because I can take it in. Number 21. Focus now.
That's a battery, all right.
So it looks like it's okay here. It's not the world's best. I should not see any metal on either one of those. I got a positive wire and a negative wire. Unwind it. And sometimes just unwinding it eases the problem. So I've got that unwound. Let's see if no. It's a very strong possibility I have some bare wire touching. Well, we're at, let's take a focus. You see the back of that diode? Those wires are soldered to that diode. And you see there is bare wire, a certain amount of bare wire going to the end.
Yeah.
If one of those touches this metal, it's going to short it out. And it very well could have. So looking at this, starting here, I have to work my way to the light to determine where the problem is. The fact that it flashed or flickered tells me that 1, it's not the battery. 2, it's not the light. 3, it has to be between here and here.
Yeah, we don't know what you're pointing at.
That's right. You can't see that. Let me get pan out. Okay. Problem has to be between here and here. So when you're doing electrification, you're going to have this happen to you often. Don't let it perplex you. Just understand that if it's all connected correctly here, and it's all connected correctly here, and it's all connected correctly, we have to assume that China put the red and the black wires in the right place. Somewhere between here and here, I made a goof. Plan on it happening. And what I'm going to be doing tonight, outside of sleeping, I was talking about your power. Once in a while, you're going to get a hold of a battery holder that does not have an on-off switch. you're going to need to put an on-off switch in line. Easiest way to do that, on-off switch, grab switches. Battery holder. Let's call plan ahead. Have your 9-volt . Oh. One of my least favorite 9-volt straps. Reason being, and I'll point this out, the end of this is made with the contacts that go on the end of the 9-volt battery, but it's all encased in plastic, soft plastic. Not my favorite, because I've pulled them apart and I know how flimsy they can be.
Yep.
So I'm going to solder an inline switch in that. First, I generally, not always, but I generally try to get it about 1 to 2 inches away from the connector so that you have your battery and your on-off switch in the same proximity. Remove. I now have a place to put the switch, but I've got to have bare wire. So I make bare wire. I'm going to solder both ends of bare wire to make it look like that. Solder.
Excuse me.
Soldering iron.
Shrink tube.
Thank you.
That's what I'm here for.
I can honestly say that at least 50% of the time you will forget the shrink tube. You will get the most fantastic, wonderful joint. And you'll look at that and say, oh, darn, I forgot the shrink tube. Where am I going to put the shrink tube? It's going to be on this part, because once I solder it to the switch, I can't get to that tape, that wire. So grab the wire, the strands of wire between your thumb and forefinger, and twist the wire so that you have one nice clean wire. Do the same thing on the end that you're going to solder on the other side. I clean the tip of my soldering iron. Get my solder in hand. Dip. Preheat, drop solder. Preheat, drop solder. Now all I have to worry about is getting the wire. Let's see if I can pan in. Yeah. All right, I have dropped a little bit of solder on the ends. I'm going to put the shrink tube on the end, put my thumb and forefinger between the heat and the tip. I lay the wire on top of the tip, so I'm preheating it. Plan on that happening. You want to secure that surface. I'm putting too much heat on that switch. I grab a hold of both and pull, and it's not coming loose, which is good. And this shrink tube didn't get hot and start shrinking back here. Now I'm going to turn it around.
Move it up, please.
Oh.
Thank you.
Preheating the wire, dropping it down on the soldered surface. Notice I didn't have to hang in there very long because this is plastic. I don't want it to melt. I pull on it before I pull it apart, and it seems to want to stay. Put another shrink tube on this end. Slip the shrink tube over the soldered joint.
Can't see.
We got it?
Yep.
I'm going to back it out and apply the heat. It's plenty hot. Now, I've got a black wire that's longer than the red one. Cut that. And now I have a 9-volt battery strap with an inline switch. Should we test it? Sure. Power, 9 volt. First thing I'm going to do is put a battery in that thing. Line them up, press. Believe me that doing it that way is easier on these plastic ones. I solder away.
We can't see.
I'm going to put the positive wire in the spring connector. Watch, it won't work. Oh, before I forget, you want to make one wire. Before you go sticking stranded wire in these spring connectors, make sure that you twist them together, that each individual wire, press down in the spring, insert the wire, say a little prayer, and turn the switch on and nothing happened. Why? I'm glad this is happening.
You're gonna text me when you're ready.
This guy came out.
Did she eat? Obi?
If I know,
No, the cat.
I just fed her. She came down.
I'm going to take them both out of the spring. First, I got to figure out which is plus and minus. I got a plus on this side and a minus on that side, but that's a 3 volt because it doesn't have the resistor. This is a plus side of that plug. This is the minus side because I've got red over here, nothing over there. Red tells me that this is positive. So if I touch press the switch, try it again. And I have power. You see the lights go on. So let's put this back in the plus side. Press that positive wire in the positive side. Negative wire in the negative side, and I have power on both lights. I just didn't have it in right the first time in here. And you'll do that at least 30% of the time. 30%. Okay, now we're ready to hit the question and answer.
All right, I got some questions.
Okay.
What do you use the foam tape for? And I said it's just two-sided tape for two-sided stuff.
Anytime you want to tape 2 items together, hang on. You use two-sided tape. Foam tape, by nature, is foam in the middle, and that comes apart real easy. So
Okay,
that's why.
Catherine wants to know what makes the fireplace flicker.
There is a device between the light and the end of the wire that I think they're called rheostats. I'm not real sure.
Sounds right.
That causes the light to go on and off and on and off intermittently. But I can get the answer for that from Evan's Design. Dick and I have both been to visit Jim and Shelley twice now and spent plenty of time together with them. I owe probably 25% of what I know as far as LED lights is concerned from both of them. They started their business in the train business. I introduced her to the common garden variety miniaturist, which is 90% of us. And at first it was overwhelming for her because they didn't do what they do now. And they, bless her heart, they have been so helpful for me. I've gotten a lot of my knowledge from them and one other gentleman from the East Coast. And then I've got a grandson who is a electrical engineer who thinks that I've got to be the dumbest thing I'd ever walked on two legs when it comes to electricity. Grandmas are not supposed to know about electricity.
Follow up question.
I'm sorry, I got started 82 and a half years ago. I got scared by electricity, by lightning. And then once again when I was 5, and then once again when I was 25. I had very bad experiences with electricity, and I came to the conclusion 10 years ago, I had to overcome my fear of plugging things in. So I came by it very honestly, and I enjoy the teaching portion of it and sharing it. Next question.
Follow up. Timentra, I'm sorry, I'm probably saying that wrong. I have a flickering fireplace on a remote system and the other lights do not flicker.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Carla. I have a remote system and I do have the flickering fireplace in there. I have LED lights, incandescent lights. The fireplace flickers and the other lights do not.
Okay. Is the power source for all of those a transformer, a regulated power supply type, or is it a battery?
It's a DC transformer.
Okay. What did I say when we were talking about don't mix flickering lights and steady lights in the same system? Remember, on a battery, oh, that's right, the battery didn't function. The battery can't handle the on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off of a fireplace flickering light without causing that to run into the incandescent and the LED lights too. So the reason that you don't have flickering on the other lights is because you're using a regulated power supply. You're not using a battery.
Those are the only questions people have posted.
My goodness. When it comes to, by the way, I offered free, all it costs you is a stamp, shrink tubes. And I only got 2 people out of 23 that wanted some shrink tube for free. That figures, that one surprised me. I expected 20 envelopes, self-addressed stamped envelopes. If you're still interested, I have a foot for each one of you. I'd be tickled to death to send it to you.
I just haven't sent you an envelope yet, Lucy, but
okay. Don't wait till Christmas, please.
Yeah, me too.
If you wait too long, I will put a note inside of your envelope to me what it's for.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I won't remember. I learned a while back that 83. What happens at 83 is you don't remember a lot of things that you used to remember. Let me grab my mouse and change my cameras.
Lucy, can you give us your address again, please?
You know what I'd like to do is, instead of giving it over the airways, because I'm already getting enough junk, send me an email and I'll send it to you.
Okay, because I meant to send one to you for the shrink tubing and forgot.
Sure.
So thank you for reminding us.
And you'll have to forgive, no makeup, no hairdo, no nothing. We spent a good chunk of today at the doctor's office. So I figured you guys are stuck with me the way I am.
All right, Carla says that she just got her kit and wants to know about the makeup class to put the board together. Okay. I know you've recorded it. Where can we find it?
Well, you were there when I recorded it. It would take a bigger editing job than I'm capable of doing. Let me think. I've got a doctor appointment tomorrow at 10. Tomorrow afternoon I'll record it and then I'll put it up on my YouTube account, and then I'm going to send you all the link. Okay, will that be okay with everybody? Yeah, Dick's getting his stitches out of his nose tomorrow, and I got a feeling that it's going to be a good 1 o'clock before I get home. Yeah, right after we get home, I'll go ahead. And Sherry, are you going to be free tomorrow afternoon?
I've got babies tomorrow.
Okay. Gee, I'll trade you.
Lucy?
Yeah?
I tried to get in after 6 o'clock and I saw it was tomorrow, the 26th, so I didn't come in, and then I got my email. I was reading my email and I saw it was 7:15 or something. I say you're recording this. What can we get?
Yes, I will. Barbara, I will have this on my my YouTube channel, so y'all can go back to it.
Okay.
As many times as you want. Okay, what you are going to have to do is get me. First, I got to make dinner after I get through here, and then I'll get it up on the YouTube. I've got to download it to my computer and then upload it to YouTube. I'll send you the link. All you have to do is send me an email, okay? And then I'll send you the link to it.
Okay.
Lucy, do you want to stop recording now?
I guess so.